Hello everyone, I'm Jesus and welcome to episode 2 of The Road to Old School MTG. In this video, I'm going to be going through uh, my different options of deciding what deck to create. Like I mentioned before, I'm starting from scratch. I have some cards, but basically almost none of them fit within the old school format. So I have to create a brand new deck from scratch. But that involved also a lot of research on my side in terms of thinking about what deck I want to play, the different kinds, the different variations that there were that would be legal within old school 93, 94. And then also thinking about which ones would be feasible, right, in terms of money, that it's not so expensive that I could play this deck and it would be still, even if I took out some of the most powerful, most expensive cards, it would still be a strong deck, and I could still put pretty good replacements for those cards, right? So that's the idea behind today's video. And also, I'm just going to explain just the process of finding more information about decks, old school decks, just in general, for those interested in just finding out more about that. So let me share what I found so far, and also just a special resource that I found. I have experience with this before, but I think would be very helpful for old school. Okay, so first of all, just looking in, right? So I used YouTube a lot. So going into here, um, I have the well, actually, give me a second. Uh, okay. Uh, yes. So, like I was mentioning, using YouTube, I just search old school uh, decks, old school Magic decks, right? And then you get a lot of options, right? A lot of videos. And then here I just picked some from my experience, a couple of decks that I have personal experience with in one way or another. Um, so the decks that I'm leaning towards, at least some of them. So the deck, that's the name of this deck, the deck, right? So this is basically a blue control deck, but it splashes all 5 colors, right? So that's right. When somebody thinks old school, this is probably the deck that they think about. This is the most famous one. It's for control players. So another option then also turbo stasis, right? So I I tried to create a turbo stasis deck back in the day, so I have experience with this. So that'd be pretty cool to do. So this basically a blue control deck where you want to play a stasis, which makes it so that there's no untap phase. But back in the old school rules, if you tap your artifact, it turns it off. And so that was a way the a player got around that, from having the stasis not so having some of these things not affect them, right? The stasis you can tap, but the winter orb is very similar. It only lets players untap um, only one land per turn, right? So that's what you would. So that's another card that's similar to stasis. That, but depending on the situation, you might use one or the other or both, right? But definitely, you can definitely win just with Winter Orb also. Over here, so uh, so this deck is another one that I've been considering, and then another deck which I also have experience with, uh, Erhnamgeddon Deck, where in this deck right here you have uh, the deck list. For this particular version, right? There's different versions. Basically, in Armageddon is destroys all the lands in play, And Erhnamgeddon is a very cheap 4 casting cost 4/5 creature, which was very strong in those days. So the idea is just to cast a big creature, get rid of all the lands, and then you usually have other ways of creating mana, like Land of War Elves, Birds of Paradise, things like that. So you still can cast things while your opponent either can't cast or he's limited, right? And then, right, so that's how you control, and that's how you win the game. So those are the some of the decks I've been researching that I'm leaning towards, but some more leaning more strongly than others. The D deck, this one is basically, for the most part, I think it's out of reach because uh, so this one basically uses a big reason it's so powerful is that it uses almost all the most powerful cards. That's why it splashes everything, all the 5 colors, because then it gets the best out of all of them, especially blue, right? Blue, it has the Ancestral Recall, Time Walk, and that other card, the other blue card. So those 3 are power 9s, right? The um, Time Twister, I believe, is called, right? And then in addition, it has 5 Moxes, right? Because you play all 5 colors, so it has 5 Moxes. It has the Black Lotus, um, right? And it has a lot of these special, the expensive lands, Library of Alexandria, right? So dual lands it might have. So it just screams expensive, right? And a lot of those cards, uh, the Power 9, you can only get it in Alpha Beta Unlimited, right? They've never been reprinted after that. At least that's legal, and especially in old school rules, those are the only ways you can get those cards in those sets. Um, Dual lands, some of these other cards were reprinted and revised, maybe in fourth, right, so on. But for the most part, most of the cards are from the original sets, right? So that just makes it very hard to be able to have this decks, right? So even though I'm interested, uh, I definitely like control decks. It seems like not feasible. Right? Even considering if I play in Eternal Central or the Atlantic rules, right, which allow reprints, this just is automatically Swedish rules, right? Swedish means no reprints, right? Only because most of these cards never had reprints to begin with, right? So it's just almost automatically by default, is Swedish format. This deck is, right. So it just I don't see how it's possible, at least not now. Turbo Stasis definitely is possible. Most of these cards have been reprinted, and most of these are, well, pretty cheap, comparative, right? To especially to D deck, right? So Turbo Stasis is an option I've been considering. Most of these are reprinted. You can get it in 4th edition, 5th edition, maybe. Right, and revised definitely, right? So, and it just doesn't have those strong cards anyway, right? So, and also another one, this is the one that I've been leaning towards, the Erhnamgeddon Deck. Also feasible. The cards are not ultra expensive, right? Just in general, that I've been seeing, and also another reason why I kind of like this one is because it kind of eliminates by default some of the stronger cards, right? Like let's say some of those um, very expensive lands, very powerful lands, Control's Factories, Library of Alexandria. So a lot of these card lands that do a lot. Dual lands, right? Um, Armageddon gets rid of all the lands, so so it doesn't matter too much how strong how expensive their lands are. They're all going to get destroyed anyway, right? So, and then also the other big thing uh, in old school Magic is the artifacts, right? Extremely powerful artifacts, broken artifacts. Um, the Moxus, Black Lotus, uh, Chaos Orb, right? So extremely overpowered artifacts. So Erhnamgeddon decks have a lot of answers to artifact cards. Green and white are basically the two best colors for to deal with enchantments and artifacts. Artifacts especially are are powerful in old school, right? So that's why I'm leaning heavier towards Erhnamgeddon, because I think it just naturally uh, deals with those overpowered cards within just the 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 goal of the deck, right? It just naturally gets rid of lands, and it just naturally has a lot of uh, strong cards against enchantments and artifacts, right? So those are some ideas that I'm gonna just decide on which one I'm gonna go with. But so now I also want just to for you guys to see just the I get an idea of what's out there, right? So all I did is just typed in old school magic. That's how I got these three tabs, and then definitely I want to highlight these creators, content creators. Edwin the Magic Engineer, very famous um, YouTuber for old school magic. He has awesome videos, so check him out. Here's another one from him. So he went over D deck and the Turbo Stasis, and then here I found this older video, the BLDP, that has a list of some of the best old school decks, and then has list of the decks, which is helpful. Right, so these are the videos. I'm gonna put them in as links in the description. But in general, this is how you find information, right? And then how you can research. So just type old school magic, and then but you have to be careful, definitely, though. Some of these decks, like this one, I noticed has some um, Zuran Orb. I think that's Ice Age, right? So even though this is, like 93, 94 is most commonly what defines old school, but the year cards from 1995, which Ice Age falls into, could also fall homelands as well. Could also fall within old school, right? Depends on the format, right? So me, I'm sticking more towards the 93, 94. So this deck as listed wouldn't work, right? So I would have to just take a couple, right? A couple cards out. But in general, 95% of the deck is fine. Just have to take a couple cards out, right? But you have to consider that, right? There's different old school formats. Just typing old school may not be enough, right? You still have to do your research. Go to mtgpicks.com, gives you a chronological order of what 93 and 94 sets are. So that gives you a better idea of what, what was sets you could use and so forth, right? But other decks, right? Definitely mono black. I remember playing mono black or playing against mono black in back in the day, right? So a lot of these videos are cool because it has two famous old school decks going head to head, right? So and they go over the deck list, what cards are in each deck. So either you can focus on a video that only focuses on one deck and then explains it in detail, or here it gives you the deck list. It doesn't explain in too much detail because the main goal of the video is for you to watch the actual decks in action, right? That's how you get an understanding of the decks, right? So goblins have always been a thing since even back then, right? But not as strong, but they were. Um, let's see some other ones that I may recognize. Winter Derby, is that I'm not sure what that is. But Weenie decks always been Erhnamgeddon, Blue Aggro. I remember Blue Aggro. Unstable Mutation, I think that's the card. Right, the deck. Right, Mono Black or with Juzam Jin. Him to Torax if they allow Falling Empires. I think that's where it was from, right? So, all right. And not as Spectres, definitely. Right, so definitely, right, this gives you a lot of ideas. And also, you can always type in old school magic decks, old school magic budget decks, right? Include budget in what you're searching, and then you'll get budget version, right? Here it is, This is a budget version of the Erhnamgeddon deck, right? So, and that's pretty common. There it is. So here's head to head, a budget deck, mono blue, that's worth 200 versus D deck, right? Total value 15,000 for that deck, right? Um, so, right, so there's definitely budget versions out there, right? But you have to do your research, and like I said, just typing old school may not be enough, right? You have to also make sure it's the format for what you're gonna play, right? This is Swedish, Eternal Central, Atlantic. Those are three of the main ones, right? There's more also. Some other ones allow for 1995 cards, which will allow Homelands and Ice Age, right? Then that would Ice Age would then allow Necropons, right? Necropons, very powerful deck type, uh, right? But in 93, 94, that wouldn't be allowed because it's not part of the sets allowed in this in for those formats, right? So you have to do your research still, right? But in general, this is what you look out for. A lot of these videos give you, right? They go through, you get a peek at their decks, and then you can then do your research if you're trying to find the economical versions, right? So over here, I see some Kurt Apes right there. I think I'm not sure where they were from. I don't. Were they in the very beginning one? I don't think so. Right. So that's why MTG Picks is pretty good because you can research things there, and it's in alphabetical order, right? So you can uh, um, find it there. So yeah, I don't see anything in the K. So credit was not there, right? So this is the process that I've been going for in terms of finding cards, making sure I can find them. This has been pretty helpful. Oh, there it is. So Kurt was originally in Arabian Night set, right? But I'm sure if you bought an Arabian Night Kurt, it would be at least several, couple hundred. I'm pretty sure. Right? If just basic lands are going for a couple hundred, that would most likely be pretty expensive, right? So then you want to look at the reprint sets, right? So that's what I'm doing. Fourth edition. Does fourth edition have Kurt Ape? Let's see. Right, so yeah, here I already went through it. There's no Kurt Ape there. Actually, it might be in Revise. Well, actually, well, it could be. But I have, oh, there it is, you see? So if you wanted to play, right, if you, let's say you were interested in that red deck that I was hovering over here that had Kurt Apes, right? You don't want to buy Arabian Night Kurt Apes, that's too expensive. They are in also in Revise, right? And they could be also in other sets, so maybe also fourth edition, right? So this, I'm just showing you guys the process of researching, trying to find uh, the most economical version of the card that you're looking for, so that that makes it more affordable and it makes it more feasible for more people to join in old school. So that's what I wanted to show today. I'm going to be now making a decision about what deck I want to use. Um, and then once I make that decision, then I got to find the right version of the deck that I want, considering the formats that I want to play in. So I'll be deciding that, and then once I have that decision made, I can then go on with the process of finding different versions of cards and so forth, finding the deck list and so forth. I do have one more thing to show, actually. I just remembered. Uh, so this is a very important tool that I've noticed. So this program is called Cockatrice. This is actually the name of a card. But they took the name for this program. It's free. You just type in Cockatrice into a search engine, and then you'll probably be able to download this, right? It's a download. Um, so this is just basically has all the full list of magic cards across all sets, right? So, and then you can create decks. You just search the card you want. Here with the arrows, you can add them to your deck over there, right? So I need swamps. Add them here. The green adds it to your deck. The blue adds it to your sideboard if you're doing sideboards. Right now, I'm not even thinking about sideboards, right? But right, you create a deck, and then you can even play test the decks that you create, right? So I think that's very important in anybody interested, especially in old school, because since the cards can be so expensive, you want to have experience playing the deck right beforehand, so that way you can tweak it. You can first of all see which version of, because if you just search online, you're going to find a lot of different versions for any one particular deck, right? So you want to see which version you think you like the best, and then you want to, in one way or another, test it, right? So this could be a nice way to actually test it that you just created. Right? You go to the video, find out what cards are in it. In that deck, you put the cards into you find those cards in Cockatrice here, and then you can play with the deck that you create, right? And you can play a solo game, just you. That way you can just get an idea of, just, how often you're going to draw lands, can you get the combos that you want to play for, right? And actually, you can even play against other people, right? So this is in the first video I mentioned that I got into Magic in and out, right, throughout the years. This was one of the ways I went in and out. Like I used to play using Cockatrice and also using other programs that are very similar. Um, and then there are online leagues that you can join, and then you can play along with that, right? So I have used this not only just for research and for play testing, but actual playing, right? So you can play also other people, right? So there might be old school leagues as well, right? I'm pretty sure there are, right? So then you can, for those interested in old school, but definitely don't want to put any money in it, this could be a nice way to go into it, and without investing really anything, uh, right? So I think this is an important tool to play test, so that way you can, by the time you're ready to purchase things, you know exactly what you want because you already have experience playing the deck that you want to create, and then so that way you save on money. You don't make any mistakes of purchasing the wrong thing and then you change your mind later on, right? So I think it's, especially for old school, with the cards being so expensive, this can really um, you can get all those hiccups out of the way in terms of uh, the testing of things, trying things out here and there. You can do all that digitally, uh, and then once you finalize your deck, then you move on to actually purchasing it, and then move on to actually playing games, either in person or through Zoom, right? But still using the physical cards, right? So that's the goal of this channel. I'm actually going to be buying the cards, right? So I envision Cockatrice to be a very important tool in me uh, fine tuning the deck that I want before I actually put the investment in purchasing those cards. So that's the end of this video. I just wanted to explain this process. In the next video, I'm going to be deciding what deck I'm going to use. I'm going to go through just the process of my decision, and then in follow-up videos, I'll be then actually buying the cards, right? And then I'll be showing you when I get them. I'll show you guys. I'll open them up, right? So to give you the full process uh, of what it takes to participate in old school Magic. So hopefully you enjoyed this video and you'll watch the next one as well. Goodbye.